Discover adventure flying. Chances are, if we asked you to name a sports car or a sports bike, you could do it. But what about a sport plane? The Icon A5 is meant not for commercial or commuter flight, but rather to enjoy the sheer adventure of flying. It turns flying from a mode of transportation to a sport. What flying was meant to be. So are you ready to start your A5 adventures? Owning an Icon A5 is as easy as flying. With a streamlined sales process, world-class customer service, and service and training partners across the country, purchasing and owning your A5 is a breeze. If you are interested in owning an A5, send your contact information to fightbackmedia@gmail.com. That's fightbackmedia@gmail.com. Well, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, fightbackmedia.com, and fightbackmediatv.com. I trust that you are well this glorious. It is Wednesday, April 5th. April 5th. Wow. Well, a couple of things. Conservatives are bemoaning the fact that a more progressive mayor than they had before is now mayor of Chicago. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And it's kind of your own fault. But yeah, we always get the government that we deserve, always, every single time. The Washington Post is getting called out because their fact checker, I love it, fact checker, like there's a person or an entity that makes sure that whatever you're saying is true because they've decided what's true and what isn't true. Whatever. Gets it wrong again. Or at least is misleading. One more time. We'll talk about both of those things. Thank you ever so much for coming to the Morning Report. We'll be back right after these messages. Discover adventure flying. Chances are, if we asked you to name a sports car or a sports bike, you could do it. But what about a sport plane? The Icon A5 is meant not for commercial or commuter flight, but rather to enjoy the sheer adventure of flying. It turns flying from a mode of transportation to a sport. What flying was meant to be. So are you ready to start your A5 adventures? Owning an Icon A5 is as easy as flying. With a streamlined sales process, world-class customer service, and service and training partners across the country, purchasing and owning your A5 is a breeze. If you are interested in owning an A5, send your contact information to fightbackmedia@gmail.com. That's fightbackmedia gmail.com. Earlier this week, the Washington Post's Glenn Kessler got savaged over Twitter on his fact-checking claiming that Republicans were making it too much of a big deal when it comes to Manhattan DA's Alvin Bragg's association with George Soros. Mere days later, he's at it again. I mean, just at it. He's at it again. Expressing outrage that members of the Trump family would dare to share reports that the judge in the president's case, Juan Manuel Merchan, is an apparent 2020 Biden donor whose daughter once worked for Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. Both Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. Had tweeted such reports, though only the tweet from the latter remained up as of Wednesday morning. In addition to tweeting out a report from Breitbart, Donald Trump Jr. also retweeted those who shared a report from the Daily Mail. And we will put this picture up so you can see it, because I want you to see it. And I think that's important. These people who are trying desperately to shuck and jive and dodge some of these things that are going to be important or going to be important to consider, they ought to have you wondering. So because if it isn't any big deal that the judge apparently and his daughter did work for Democrats, both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, if that's not a big deal, then why are you hiding it? Then why are you dismissing it? Why are you poo-pooing it? Why? So according to Kessler, though, the Trump family members were sharing totally irrelevant that was obviously intended to intimidate. No, it wasn't intended to intimidate at all. What it was intended to do was illuminate. Not intimidate, but illuminate. Roaches don't like light. The vermin don't like light. They only hang out in the dark. So that's what this is. This isn't some intimidation thing. This is an illumination thing. This is who these people are. We've also reported on the judge's connection, which looks to be clear conflict of interest, citing Federal Election Commission filing, as well as screenshots of the LinkedIn pages of his daughter, Lauren, and details from the Breitbart report. Kessler was, once again, quickly savage for his take. Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief of the Federalist, was quick to emphasize how it had not been a good week for the fact checker. And here's what Molly tweeted. Molly tweeted, "Did you really just deceptively edit tweets in order to falsely portray the linking of a news story about a public figure as the posting of a private individual's photo?" Wow. Banner freaking week, Glenn. So when Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post put this up, he took out the picture that I'm showing. He took out the picture. So he edited the tweet that puts these people together. Anyway, our friends at Twitchy also highlighted some noteworthy replies, pointing out that just how ridiculous Kessler's concerns are that he doesn't fact that the facts are relevant to the case against Trump to come out. So this idea, Donald Trump also retweeted other users taking issue with the overreaction from Kessler and others. Yeah, so this is all really good stuff. Kessler, as it turns out, is not the only member of the mainstream leftist media to freak out, with examples coming from the Daily Beast, and, the Independent. CNN's John King called out the Trump family, as did Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat from New York, with the latter claiming over Twitter that this threatening a judge's family. This is illuminating who these people are, because the roaches like the dark. Now, I don't know if you've lived in a place that had roaches, but if you're walking around that place in the daytime, you probably won't see any roaches. You only see those roaches at night after everybody's gone to bed. You go out in that kitchen, flip that light on. I don't know if you've ever lived in a place like that. I hope you have not. But if you have, now you know what I'm talking about. That's who these people are. People like Kessler and people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and John King and the people of the Daily Beast and the Independent and the Rolling Stone and so on and so on. That's what Alvin Bragg. That's who these people are. They love to do their dirt in the dark. They love to do their dirt in the dark. Google like it's getting involved in the situation. Jesus. As a Google search of the article that Eric Trump had initially tweeted bears a message. It looks like the results below are changing quickly. This has happened before, including to do with the ethics complaint filed against Adam Schiff for a campaign video announcing his Senate run. At the time, we were still watching the community notes to get involved in providing the context for Kessler's tweets, which they did not do his fact check on Bragg's connection with Soros. They had nothing to do with that. They love to do their dirt in the dark. They don't want us to see the obvious connections. Now, because they'll do a couple of things. They'll say that we're being intimidating. Cortez says we're trying to intimidate his family, threaten his family. No. We're illuminating, shedding light on who these people are and what the connections they have. Because that puts things in context. The illumination puts things in context. Now we can see. Now we can see who's connected to whom and how they're connected. And then we can make sense of how things go from there. And what they don't want us to do is just that. But thanks to Eric and Donald Jr., thank you so much for having to dig this up on their own. Now, why didn't mainstream media dig this up on their own? Because they're involved too. You guys know by watching and by listening to the podcast, I'm not waving the Donald Trump flag and and going to the boat rallies and driving down the Mar-a-Lago to watch a dude drive by in a car. But just like Jeb Bush, who thinks that this is horrible and political, and just like Ron DeSantis, who thinks that this is horrible and political, and just like John Bolton, the three people that I mentioned who are not fans of the president at all, who are not fans of Donald Trump at all, think that this is political and awful. I think this is political and awful. Absolutely political and awful. All right, we'll do a little break. We'll be back with more of the program right after these messages. So is it okay now, because it was, during the Trump administration, it is okay to talk about the president's...
yeah. We talked about mental health elderly, so let's talk about this guy's mental health.
The president's mental acuity, because there's sometimes where it seems to be lacking. Have you seen...
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it's especially bad. I'm talking about sometimes it's like really bad. Like, have you seen the picture?
I was told not to take any questions.
I was told not to take any questions. They're going to be mad at me.
They're going to be mad at me.
Mr.
President, are you the president or are you five?
You see, what I want... See, the next question is... excuse me,
I was told to call on what you call for NBC. Who's telling you to call on?
That's the question that we ought to be asking. Who's telling you this?
I don't understand why nobody won't ask that question.
Is Jen Psaki actually the president?
Who's telling you to call on these people in the media?
Is Jen Psaki actually the president?
Probably so.
everybody was super happy and giddy when it was announced that Lori Lightfoot would no longer be mayor of Chicago. Yay! We were giddy and we laughed and everybody chuckled and gave everybody the elbow and thumbs up. And now, progressive activist and teachers union lobbyist Brandon Johnson defeated Paul Vallas, I think his name is, on Tuesday to become the next mayor of Chicago. A result that some conservatives say will be even worse for the city than Lori Lightfoot. It's hard to imagine, but could be. The race was called last evening, showing Johnson won with 51.4% of the vote to Vallas's 48.6% of the vote. Johnson said, they said this would never happen. To Chicagoans who did not vote for me, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want you to know, that I care about you, that I value you. I want to hear from you. I want to work with you. I want to be the mayor for you too, he continued. Typical crap, they all say. The campaign has always been about building a better, stronger, safer Chicago for all the people of Chicago. He also vowed to take a bold, progressive movement nationwide. It seems to me, now you can write in the comments what you think, please do. And please do. You know what? Those of you who have written comments and gotten replies from me, you know that what I have not been is argumentative with you. I have not, and I'm not going to be. I like your comments. Thank you. The comments help the algorithm, and at some point we'll have 600 subscribers. At some point we'll have 6 million subscribers, I think. Maybe. I don't know if YouTube wants that. Anyway, it seems to me that Chicago has now have another Soros-based mayor. Saying that, and I'll tell you why here in a second. He says, let's take this bold progressive movement around these United States of America. I thought you were the mayor of Chicago. Let's do Chicago first, right? He said, Chicago, we can show the country, we can show the world what's possible when we stand on our values. Yeah, you can. He added, you don't have to choose between toughness and compassion, but between the care for our neighbors and keeping our people safe. If tonight is any proof of anything, it's proof that those old false choices do not serve this city any longer. Johnson has support from Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Socialists of America, the American Federation of Teachers, boss Randy Weingarten. All right. In Wokeness tweeted, Brandon Johnson ran his entire campaign on anti-whiteness. Well, yeah. Here's what he says. He said, this is about black labor versus white wealth. That's what the battle is about, Johnson responded. This is about providing community access to very public accommodations, which black people fought for, especially after emancipation. It's what the descendants of slaves in this room are fighting for: public education, public transportation, affordable housing, healthcare, and access to jobs, which seems like everybody's got. But what he said was, this is about black labor versus white wealth. And white folks in Chicago voted for this person. We always, without exception, get the government that we deserve. My name is William Lawson. This has been the Morning Report. Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.